guys, it's August again. In this tutorial I'll be explaining classes and showing you how to define a class, and later explaining objects. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new ASP.NET console application. Okay, it seems like I've passed that. There we go, this one, and then we go next. Let's go classes. Okay, let's create that. Okay, powerful. There we go. First of all, let's make this public, and let's also make this one public. Okay, powerful. Okay, now we need to define a new class, and before we can do that, this is also okay. This is a namespace. The name of the namespace is classes, and this down here is a class. Okay, and the name of the class is program. That's a predefined class that comes that pops up automatically, or that is automatically created when we create a namespace. Okay, so before we can start by defining a class, you need to understand what is a class. Okay, a class is sort of like a blueprint, actually, of what is it? Of a namespace. Okay, so before we define a class, also a class is defined more like a method, because first thing we need to specify is the access specifier and the keyword class and the name of that specific class. Okay, let's go ahead and create a new class here. Let's go to let's add a class. Okay, let's call this class student dot cs. Okay, and then let's add the class. Okay, you see now we are within the same namespace classes, and we need to specify the access specifier, which is public. Okay, and then after defining that, we need to include the members of the class, actually what we call your variables and your methods. Okay, so since we are dealing with a student here, let's go ahead and give him a private long student number. Let's go ahead and give him a private string name. Let's go ahead and give him a private string. Let's call this the course. Okay, let's stick to those, and then let's go ahead and create the constructor. Okay, and we're gonna pass in a long, let's call it st, and then we're gonna pass a string, let's call it names, and then we're gonna pass a string, let's call it course, like that. Okay, now what we need to do is to mutate our class. Okay, we're gonna mutate within our constructor, and there are also other methods of mutating. We call them mutator methods. Okay, that's when you mutate like this. Let me show you. You go public. Okay, you go public void, let's say set what we're setting the student number. Okay, what did I do? Okay, set the student number, and then you pass along, let's call it the st, and then you go this dot student number, you equate it to your st. This is how we create a mutator method. Okay, but then in this case I am gonna mutate within the constructor. Okay, so we're gonna come here and say this dot the student number is equal to st this dot the name is equal to the names, and then we go down here, we say this dot the course is equal to the course. Okay, powerful. Now let me explain this. What we did in our constructor is that whenever we need to make use of this class from another specific class, like our program class, which is our application class, we will have to pass this data into this specific class for this class to process. Okay, and what we did here is that we've taken all the data that has been entered within this program class. It's not yet entered, but soon to be entered within this program class. So we've passed it back here, and then what we are doing here is that we are taking whatever data that has been passed and initializing our, actually assigning it to our private variables, since we cannot access these variables on another class. They are private, they are only accessible to this specific class. Okay, so now what we need to do next is to create what we call accessor methods. This is the get student number. We don't pass anything in there, and it returns the student number. Okay, let's go public. This one should be a string. Get the name. Okay, and then we return the name. Okay, and make sure that when you're doing the when you're defining your accessor methods, you return the variables that were created up here, not the ones that were entered here, because we're working with this class only understands this data has been entered by a foreign class. Okay, let's go get the course, and then down here we return the course. Okay, powerful. Now actually, let me now comment this and call them accessor methods. Let's save this. Let's go up there. This is our constructor. Okay, and then down here, let's go ahead and display that information. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a public string. Let's call this method toString. Okay, this method is gonna do the display. Okay, so let's go ahead and return. Let's go ahead and say, okay, first let's skip a line. Okay, let's skip 2, and then let's go ahead and say student number. Okay, let's put those, and then class get student number. Okay, and then we add let's go to a new line. Let's say the name plus get the name, and then we close that. Let's jump to a new line also, and then say course, and then let's get the course. Okay, powerful. Now we are done with defining or creating a class. Okay, this is our class. Now let's go ahead and come to our application class. Now when we come to our application class, I'm gonna create what we call an object. Okay. uh oh, okay, sorry about that. Okay, an object is actually a memory that it's a block of memory that has been allocated or configured according to a blueprint of a specific class. Okay, so let's go ahead here and create, because our previous class is called what? Student. So our object in this case is going to be student, exactly the same name as the name of the other class. Let's call this one student with small letters. Let's say is equal to new what? Okay, before we can do that, let's create a method. Public static void. Let's call this one load. No, let's not call it load, let's call it stud. Okay, and then we're not gonna pass anything, but within this we're gonna create, let's go ahead and display console dot write line. Let's say enter your student number. Okay, close that. Let's go ahead and create a long, let's call it stud number is equal to convert. Okay, convert dot to int 64. Okay, and then in here we pass the console dot read line. Wow, Visual Studio 2019 actually gives you clues on what to do next. Console dot write line. Let's say enter your full name. Okay, and then we declare a string, we call it name. We equate it to console dot read the line. Okay, we save that, we jump out downstairs, we go console dot write line, and then we say enter your course. Okay, and then we go down here, we say string, let's call it CRS is equal to console dot what? Write line. Okay, okay, powerful. I'm thinking of making a few changes here. Okay, yeah, let's not make this void, but let's make it an object of student. It's gonna return what we call a student. Okay, so in here I now need to call the student and call it student is equal to new what? Student. Okay, and remember what we are doing here, the one that we are calling new is actually our constructor this other side on the students class. So we need to pass in these variables as I told you earlier. Okay, so the first one is the student number. Okay, student number over there, and the second one is the name, the last one is the course. Okay, powerful. So we are done doing that. Okay, So the next thing we can return what? The student. Close that. Okay, we can either return the student or we can display everything in here. Okay, so let's go ahead on the other side. Let's create a student empty object. Let's call it st is equal to what? Is equal to stud, and then we close that. Okay, and then let's come down here and go console dot write line. Okay, and then here we're gonna say st dot, you see all the methods that we created on the other side: get course, get name, get student number, but we want the toString method in this case to display the information that we have entered. Okay, now we are done creating our class and our object. Let's go ahead and run this class. Enter your student number 211101698. It's August. Bila. Course, let's go in information technology in multimedia. Okay, powerful. Didn't display because I left out the console dot read key to help read my keys. Okay, do that, and then let's run this. Okay, let's enter the desired input. It's 211101698. Okay, and then let's say it's August. Bila. Then it's IT multimedia. Okay, powerful. There we go. There is the information displayed by our backend class. Okay, so that's all about it from classes. Classes and objects. I'll see you next time, where I'll also be showing you how to create object arrays. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed. Cheers.